Right, hi. We're here today with Tracy Holsinger, who is the Artistic Director of Mind Adventures. Welcome, and thanks for joining Ground Views.
Thank you.
Well, first off, could you tell us what will be emphasized in your production, The Traveling Circus, and what do you hope to accomplish with regard to asserting the theme of IDPs and whatever relevant themes will come up in the production?
I hope to emphasize several things, I hope. The thing with this play is because it's very allegorical, you have to take from it what you will. There are very many things emphasized. The cost of living, the IDPs, just how horrid war is, and the fact that no one ever really wins a war. There's so many repercussions. We're emphasizing friendship, emphasizing the fact that it's okay to be different. There's this whole one nation, and there's only two kinds of people in the country, people who love their country and people who don't. And one of the things we really talked about was, is it okay to be different and still be one nation? Because we're such a multicultural society, and all of us as a cast feel really strongly that those differences should be celebrated, and that it shouldn't be a reason for someone to be discriminated against their differences. So, it's a universal story. It's open not only to adults, it's open to children as well. So, you're just emphasizing life in Sri Lanka in a very allegorical way. The significance of the IDPs is the fact that when we got together 6 months ago, and we wanted to do something that would reflect our feelings as a group about what was going on in the country right now. I have read the Mahavansa from cover to cover about 8 times since May this year. Because we started there, we started looking at identity and how it's used in conflict. But we created 2 plays, neither of which really satisfied me in any way. I don't think at the end of the day that either of them really brought out what brought us together as a group in the first place, which was to really do something that reflected life in Sri Lanka right now and what our thoughts as a group were about what our main concerns were. So the IDPs and that whole situation is, very much part of that.
Okay. And then, what are the benefits of the arts and specifically theatre in engaging on what has become an increasingly controversial topic in the zeitgeist and the political environment and climate of Sri Lanka?
It's very interesting that you ask me that, because one of the people I've been reading about is a French philosopher. His name is Paul Ricoeur, and he talks about something called ethical memory. He says there are different levels of memory, and ethical memory is one of them. And he talks about, through the arts, using the arts as a medium to create a space for creating a new kind of narrative, a space for dialogue, and a narrative that will do justice to victims and victors alike. And reading that made it had a big impact on me, and I guess that's part of the sort of inspiration for doing this. I do think that the arts can create a space for us to be able to have a shared memory, and not a very one-sided memory. And the thing about art is that it allows you to reinterpret something. You can always see a story from another point of view. And I think that's what we don't do enough. We're very blinkered sometimes. So I think there's a definite role for arts to play, especially right now when more than anything we need to think about, I think, reconciliation. If you ask me what the main point of this play is, I would hope that it is to spread a message of tolerance. And that's a word that is quite key for me and my motivations for doing this.
And the play itself, it's based on Mike Masalamani's The Boy Who Spoke in Numbers,
Yeah.
his short story. How much have you imbibed his story and the story that he portrayed?
Almost all of it. But we have the thing with devised theatre is you take a story and you reinterpret it. In this case, we created characters almost from scratch because the story that Mike wrote, he wrote it about 3 years ago and he just sent it to me. And the characters were not really fully formed, and even now it's not a finished story. So it gave us a lot of freedom to kind of interpret, and a good portion of the story is there. There's very little that we've actually left out, but also for me this show is not over. It's going to be a work in progress for a long time, because there are more scenes I want to add, and there's more stuff I definitely want to develop. So this production doesn't mean the end of this production doesn't mean the end of the story or the play. It's going to keep evolving.
Okay. And I mean, considering the topic, are there any dangers of engaging the issue of IDPs in Sri Lanka, and more importantly, the problems faced by them?
Well, yes, I would say so. But I think the particular staging, our style of staging, kind of circumvents that in a way. We're not doing this play to point fingers at people and say, bad, naughty, you bad, you bad. That's not what this play is about at all. It's really just asking for reconciliation. I don't want to give too much away, but the play actually has a happy ending. And it's something that we, as a cast, would really like there to be. We would like that particular ending to happen. It's not about pointing fingers, because that's not how you go about reconciliation. It's about saying, look, this is what we are like now, and this is what we could end up like, and wouldn't that be great? Yeah, it's a comedy, and it's a children's story. It's heartwarming, and it's witty, and it's wise, and it's very simple. The message is very direct, and for now, I think that's enough.
Okay. And the production itself, I mean, from what little has been given to me, seems sufficiently burlesque. I'm not
Yes.
sure, but there is a sufficient level of quirk and satire.
Well, that's the way it's written.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, to what degree does it point to the folly of the incumbent and the politics pursued in addressing the needs of IDPs in Sri Lanka?